Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. Welcome to the Tenderoni Hotline, where I answer your questions about emotional outsourcing, our codependent, perfectionist, and people pleasing habits, about somatics, about the nervous system, pretty much whatever you send me. So send your question in to podcast@beatricealbina.com and you'll hear it answered here one of these weeks. How fun! This is so super fun. I love this. All right, let's get to it. Our first question comes from Tina Marie. It reads, I know I'm a people pleaser. How do I stop being this way? It's a complex answer, but let me do my best to be succinct. So people pleasing is what happens when your body brilliantly and amazingly learned that connection was conditional. Right? That being attuned to everyone else's needs kept you safer. That reading the room and like adjusting yourself so they would like you more was how you stayed, well, loved. So if that was your childhood, or if that was, maybe it wasn't at home, but at school or your religion or your culture, your society, whatever, however it got into you, your nervous system likely built it into the very foundation of the experience of being you. And so again, there's nothing wrong with you, right? This is evidence of your nervous system being brilliant under very challenging circumstances and doing its number one most importantest job, which is keeping you safe any way possible. So people pleasing is one form of what I call emotional outsourcing. It shows up as codependent, perfectionist, and people pleasing habits. And all of it is the same root. A body that learned it had to earn its place, that love and connection weren't givens, but things you had to work for, prove yourself worthy of, and maintain through constant vigilance. And so when you understand it this way, you can stop treating yourself like you're broken, because you're not, right? You adapted. Way to go, you. And as an adult, it sucks. It's a challenging way to be. So now you're learning something new, which is that your nervous system can stay regulated. I promise it can. Even when someone else is disappointed, even when someone has feelings about your limits. And that's where real change happens. Not in hating yourself into compliance, but in teaching your body that it's safe enough to take up space. Safe enough to want what you want, safe enough to build a holiday that actually feels like yours, a birthday, a workplace, a family, etc. Right? And so in my programs, we work on the core stories of people pleasing, which is I am not the center of my universe. This body, my wants, the sensations herein are not the most important thing. Right? We tend in emotional outsourcing, we live from the neck up. We're in our thoughts, not connected to our bodies. And so when the body says, well, I want this, the brain goes, that was a direct quote from my brain. But what that translates to is, it is not safe to want what you want for dinner if he makes that face when you recommend it. It's not safe to not like what mom wants you to like. And so we're overriding the body chronically and habitually as a way to stay safer, right? And so step one in overcoming codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing habits is remembering we have a body, remembering that we get to feel the sensations in our body and that it can be safe enough, and then learning to interpret them, to be present with them, and then slowly with time to honor them and to create a life where, yes, of course, mindset matters. Of course, our thoughts matter. But the people I tend to work with we're so locked up in our head because we're wicked smarty pants that we really need to do the work to come back into presence in the body. Also understanding that things like people pleasing tend to live in procedural memory, in implicit memory, meaning it's like the operating system, right? Procedures like, how do you drive car? It's just a procedural memory. If you know how to drive a car, you know how to drive a car. You get in the car, you drive the car, or ride a bike or whatever. You don't have to think about it every time you want to go to the supermarket. You just do it. So having that old people-pleasing response it's a procedural memory. It's written into the animal. So we have to start with somatics, with the nervous system. Somatics are body-based practices. We start with the body and with the nervous system to come back into presence here so the body can drive the bus and help us to choose the next right step for ourselves from self. So that's where we start. It's a whole process to step out of people pleasing. And it also involves, the most challenging thing for most of us is learning to be okay when people are displeased, because when you stop people pleasing, people aren't pleased. But we got to prioritize self by learning to feel self, learning to be present with sensation in the body, and learning to build I can be safe enough in my body as a way to allow ourselves to have our own back again. So when someone says, I don't like your limit, I don't like your boundary, change back, you can really drop into presence in the body, and you can use that grounding to help you stay with yourself. Yeah? So that's in a quick little nutshell what we do, but really the one thing you can do at home right now is start to listen to your body. So before you do, all right, let's use, this is the simplest, easiest example is when you have a cup of tea. Feel the weight, the heat. Oh, it's like the perfect temperature right now. Feel your cup of tea. And for folks listening to the podcast, I'm currently holding a cup of tea. I just picked it up. Feel the tea. Feel the weight. Feel the heat. Smell it. Oh, that's delicious. Really smell the herbs or the spices, whatever it is. You can do the same with coffee. It doesn't matter. It can be lemonade. You get it. The point is doing at least one thing a day where you come back into the body and connect in with sensation and let what the body's feeling truly guide you. Yeah? And let that start to begin to be as important in your mind as your mind. That's key work. And we dive deeper into the actual how in the shift, which is my 12 weeks self-guided but community-based program where we look at safety, belonging, and worth and work on each of those three components specifically. Is a really great place to start actually doing this work with my guidance, right? I've been doing this for a really long time. So I've got it down to a bit of a science, and those programs are really great places to start exploring, working through it, and learning to come back home to your own heart and your own center. Okay, this next question was posted on our YouTube. Can you please give a follow-up on more examples of safe enough, belonging, and worthy with ideas and options? My CPTSD nervous system doesn't even recognize those words to find options. So if words like safe or safe enough, belonging, or worthy don't mean much in your body, it's often because your body learned what those words were supposed to point to by how relationships actually went, not by hearing the words themselves. So nervous systems don't organize around concepts. They organize around pattern and consequence, around what usually happened when. So here, when you spoke up, when you rested, when you needed something, wanted something, when you were disappointed by someone or someone was disappointed by you. So let's start with safe enough, and let's make it relational from the jump, because that's what we do around here. And let me just a really important intersectional feminist political note. I don't talk about safe as though that was a thing, because for so many bodies in so many identities, there is no safe, true safety. So I'm always going to talk about relative safe enough, because who am I to say, right, this is what will make you safe, right? But we can feel safer and safe enough to have a conversation, set a boundary, whatever, right? So general note. Okay, so in emotional outsourcing, safety gets wired to other people's internal states, to their perceived mood, their approval, their perceived comfort. And your body learned over time, I'm okay if you're okay with me. I'm safe as long as nothing escalates, as long as I don't become a problem in your eyes. So safe enough in relationship, it's not about feeling calm or even like trusting someone deeply. It's about reduced relational threat. Safe enough might sound like, I'm not being interrogated. I don't have to manage your feelings. I can pause without consequences. I'm not being rushed into agreement. I can say, I don't know, and nothing bad happens, right? There's a spaciousness in safe enough. For many people, safety isn't about danger, right? It's about whether connection requires self-erasure. And this isn't limited to CPTSD or PTSD. It's how most of us were trained to relate in emotional outsourcing. But also like writ large, right? In family, schools, workplaces, religions, cultures that rewarded compliance and punishing convenience, then safety becomes truly conditional, right? You're safe when you're being useful, when you're agreeable, when you don't cost too much, or when you're not demanding. So that training doesn't disappear just because no one is yelling, right? And this is why safety with yourself matters so much, right? A safe, physically safe environment, emotionally safe environment, but safety within. So safe enough with yourself might look like letting a feeling exist without like correcting or fixing it, not turning discomfort into a moral failing, not trying to like force yourself to be fine or okay or calm, and allowing care without earning it first. So that's relational safety turned inward. It's the beginning of not outsourcing safety to performance or likability. So once safety loosens even a little, we move into belonging. So belonging is where emotional outsourcing often like hides in plain sight. For a lot of us, belonging didn't mean being welcomed as we are. It meant staying connected by staying manageable, by being helpful, by being quiet, by being impressive or low maintenance, right? You belonged if you didn't disrupt the system. So when people talk about belonging now, your body might hear, what do I have to give up to stay included, right? And that's just memory, right? So relational belonging isn't just closeness or intimacy. It's not being othered inside the connection. And so belonging with yourself might sound like, I don't exile this part of me. I don't push them away, right? I don't shame myself for my parts or for having needs. I let contradictory feelings exist at the same time. I stay with myself even when I'm uncomfortable. So the contradictory feelings, I am mad at you, but I still love you, right? I'm sad, so sad that you did that. And I'm also angry that you did that. Or I'm so sad you did that. And I still love you and I care about you. And I'm going to set this limit. Because of this behavior, meow, 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 you don't get to be in my life, right? And so there's a lot of complexity in there, but like in a nutshell, that's internal belonging, staying whole instead of splitting yourself to remain acceptable or to not make others uncomfortable. With other people, belonging might look like, I don't have to over-explain. I don't soften my truth to be tolerated. I'm not auditioning for my place here. I can be quiet and still be welcome. I can be loud and still be welcome, right? For many nervous systems, belonging feels like relief, like a small drop in vigilance, a moment where you're not like scanning for exclusion. Again, this is not necessarily trauma specific. This is what happens when humans are shaped by systems that confuse sameness with safety and difference with threat, right? So then there's worth. So this is the word that carries the most weight for a lot of us because worth has so often been externally assigned, like earned and withheld and negotiated. Many of us learned worth as something other people decided based on our behavior and the things we can't control, our race, our sex, our etc., right? So instead of asking, do I feel worthy, which most bodies cannot answer, a more useful question is, how quickly do I turn against myself when something goes wrong? And I know that's an ouchie, that's a lot of question, but it's a good one, right? So in your relationship to yourself, worth shows up as whether you attack yourself for having a reaction, whether you punish yourself for needing rest, whether you allow repair instead of demanding perfection, whether you stay present with yourself when you feel embarrassed or disappointed or angry or grief or whatever feeling is most challenging for you internally in relation to you. In relationship with others, worth sounds like, I don't assume I'm disposable. I don't preemptively apologize for existing or having wants or needs. I don't chase reassurance to attempt to feel okay. I don't collapse when there's tension, which doesn't mean you don't have feelings, but you don't collapse. So from an emotional outsourcing lens, worth is not self-esteem, it's non-abandonment. I don't leave myself to secure connection. I don't outsource my value to someone else's approval. I don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. And so none of this requires feeling good. None of this requires healing everything. None of this requires a calm nervous system. We've talked about that here on the show before. It's not about calm. This work happens in small relational moments, moments where you don't override yourself, where you don't manage someone else's feelings, where connection is real, imperfect, and survivable. Whether or not you have PTSD, CPTSD, all of us are unlearning the same lesson, that our safety, belonging, and worth live somewhere outside of us and must be maintained through self-abandonment. So, if all your body can recognize right now is, this costs me less emotionally, energetically, physically, spiritually than it used to, that's not nothing. That's the nervous system beginning to reorganize around staying present with yourself, staying grounded in the concept of your own safety, belonging, and worth with you. And that's what we're working towards. All right, my beauty, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. I'll see you soon. Ciao, ciao.